On September 19th, 2012, Apple released a product so catastrophically broken that its CEO would later apologize on national television. But that wasn't even the dumbest decision in this story. Over the past 2 decades, 6 companies with billions in funding, armies of engineers, and rooms full of people paid to prevent disasters made choices so spectacularly wrong they became case studies in how not to run a business. We're talking about decisions that vaporized market leaders, grounded entire fleets of aircraft, and convinced investors to pour money into machines that literally didn't work. Let's talk about what happens when hubris meets reality. Apple had just become the most valuable company on Earth. The iPhone was printing money. Tim Cook had taken over from Steve Jobs exactly 1 year earlier, and everyone was watching to see if he could maintain the magic. Then came iOS 6, and with it, Apple Maps, their attempt to break free from Google's mapping service. At the time, Google Maps was essentially perfect. It had been refined over 7 years, had Street View, transit directions, and knew where everything was. Executives believed they could build something better in-house. They were catastrophically wrong. The app launched with Melbourne's airport located in the wrong city, directions that sent drivers into the Australian outback, and a 3D view that looked like buildings were melting. Police in Australia issued warnings that people relying on Apple Maps to navigate remote areas could face life-threatening situations. One man searching for a service station got stranded 70 kilometers from his target. But there was one problem. You couldn't just delete it. Apple had made Maps the default, replacing Google Maps entirely. Within a week, Tim Cook published a public apology and suggested users try competitors like Bing and MapQuest. Yeah, Bing and MapQuest. Scott Forstall, the executive who'd overseen iOS, was forced out. Apple spent the next 6 years and hundreds of millions of dollars rebuilding Maps from scratch, all from rushing a product to reduce dependence on a rival without ensuring it actually worked. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, Elizabeth Holmes was building something far more dangerous. In 2003, at age 19, she dropped out of Stanford with a vision: revolutionize blood testing with a device that could run hundreds of tests from a single finger prick. By 2013, Theranos was valued at $9 billion. Holmes appeared on magazine covers, wore Steve Jobs-style black turtlenecks, and spoke in an unnaturally deep voice. Major pharmacy chains like Walgreens signed deals to install Theranos machines. The board included Henry Kissinger and 2 former secretaries of state. Investors included Rupert Murdoch, who personally put in $125 million. Turns out, the machines didn't work. Not didn't work well, didn't work at all. Theranos was secretly running most tests on traditional lab equipment, diluting blood samples to stretch the tiny amounts their device could collect. When their own scientists raised concerns, Holmes and her COO boyfriend, Sunny Balwani, responded with legal threats and surveillance. Employees were forbidden from speaking to each other about their work. The company's lawyer, David Boies, had been paid partly in stock and now had every incentive to protect the lie. In October 2015, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou published an investigation revealing the fraud. Walgreens terminated their partnership and later sued for $140 million. The SEC charged Holmes with massive fraud. Theranos shut down in 2018. In January 2022, Holmes was convicted on 4 counts of fraud. She'd convinced powerful people to believe in something that violated basic physics, and thousands of patients received incorrect medical results. By the end, that $9 billion valuation had become exactly $0. Then there's MySpace, which somehow fumbled a lead so massive it's taught in business. Schools as a cautionary tale. In 2005, MySpace was the largest social networking site in the world, with 25 million users. Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation bought it for $580 million. At the time, Facebook was limited to college students and had fewer than 6 million users. MySpace dominated. You could customize your profile with glittery backgrounds, autoplay songs, and HTML code that made everything blink. Executives believed their lead was insurmountable. But there was one problem. They treated the platform like a cash register instead of a product. News Corp loaded MySpace with advertisements and auto-playing videos that slowed page load times to a crawl. While Facebook invested in engineering talent and site speed, MySpace froze its engineering budget and laid off developers. CEO Krista Wolf pitched ideas for music streaming and video content, but News Corp executives shot them down, focused instead on quarterly ad revenue. Meanwhile, Facebook opened to everyone in September 2006 and introduced the newsfeed. By 2008, MySpace's traffic was declining. Facebook surpassed them in April of that year. By 2011, MySpace had laid off 500 employees, about 47% of its workforce, and was sold to Specific Media for $35 million. News Corp had paid $580 million just 6 years earlier. That's a 94% loss. Today, MySpace exists as a forgotten music platform no one uses, all from mistaking a monopoly for permanence while the competitor built something cleaner, faster, and better. The BlackBerry playbook might be the purest distillation of corporate delusion in this entire list. In April 2011, Research in Motion, the company behind BlackBerry, decided to enter the tablet market. The iPad had been out for 1 year and had sold 15 million units. RIM executives announced the playbook, a 7-inch tablet priced at $499, designed to compete directly with Apple. The marketing was aggressive. The executives were confident. Then it shipped. Without email. A BlackBerry tablet. Without email. BlackBerry's entire brand was built on email. Corporate executives bought BlackBerry specifically for secure, instant email access. The devices were nicknamed Crackberry because professionals were addicted to them. And RIM launched a tablet that couldn't access email unless you tethered it to a BlackBerry phone. No standalone email app, no calendar, no contacts. Tech reviewers were baffled. One writer compared it to Toyota releasing a car without wheels and promising to mail them later. RIM sold fewer than 1 million units in the first quarter and had to take a $485 million write-down to clear unsold inventory. By December 2011, 8 months after launch, they dropped the price to $199, a 60% discount. The company never recovered. By 2016, BlackBerry had exited the hardware business entirely. The playbook became a perfect example of how market leaders can misread their own strengths so badly they alienate their core users. Behind the scenes at Boeing, engineers were facing an impossible problem. In 2011, American Airlines announced it was ordering 460 new fuel-efficient jets from Airbus. Boeing's workhorse, the 737, was based on a design from the 1960s. Airbus's new A320neo was cheaper to operate, and airlines loved it. Boeing had two choices: spend a decade and $10 to $15 billion designing an all-new aircraft, or modify the existing 737 to compete immediately. They chose speed. In August 2011, Boeing launched the 737 MAX program, upgrading the engines for better fuel efficiency. The new engines were larger and had to be mounted higher on the wings. This changed the plane's aerodynamics, giving it a tendency to pitch up, something that could lead to a stall. Instead of redesigning the plane, Boeing added software called MCAS that would automatically push the nose down if it detected a dangerous angle. But there was one problem. Pilots weren't told. MCAS wasn't mentioned in the flight manual. Boeing convinced the FAA that the system was so minor it didn't require additional pilot training because training would mean airlines would have to ground pilots for simulator sessions, eliminating the MAX's main selling point. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed into the Java Sea, killing all 189 people aboard. Bad sensor data had triggered MCAS repeatedly. The pilots didn't know the system existed. 5 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed, killing all 157 people. Same cause. The 737 MAX was grounded worldwide for 20 months. Boeing stock dropped 25%. They paid over $2.5 billion in settlements. Airlines canceled orders. By prioritizing speed to market over safety, Boeing had created a plane that killed 346 people and lost tens of billions in value. Airbus, meanwhile, kept selling the A320neo. And finally, there's MoviePass, a company that somehow convinced investors that losing money on every transaction was a viable business model. In 2011, MoviePass launched with a simple idea: pay a monthly subscription, see unlimited movies in theaters. The original price was around $50 per month. Then, in August 2017, everything changed. New owners dropped the price to $9.95 per month. One movie ticket costs $9.95. The logic went like this: get millions of subscribers, collect data on movie preferences, sell that data to studios, somehow profit. Subscribers exploded. By June 2018, MoviePass had 3 million subscribers. The problem? They were paying full price to theaters for every ticket. A subscriber seeing 2 movies a month cost MoviePass about $20 in ticket purchases, while MoviePass collected $9.95. They were losing $10 plus per customer per month. The company was burning through $20 million monthly. Executives believed theaters would cut them deals out of gratitude for driving foot traffic. Theaters told MoviePass to get lost and launch their own subscriptions. MoviePass started desperately cutting costs. They blocked subscribers from seeing major releases. On opening weekend, they limited users to 3 movies per month, defeating the unlimited promise. In July 2018, the company literally ran out of money and had to borrow $5 million to keep the service running for a single day. By September 2019, MoviePass shut down completely. The math was never complicated. You can't charge less than wholesale and expect to survive. But investors had poured in $300 million, convinced that growth and disruption would somehow override basic arithmetic. It didn't. Here's what connects all six of these disasters. They were all preventable. Apple could have delayed iOS 6 until Maps actually worked. Holmes could have built real technology instead of theater. MySpace could have invested in engineering instead of banner ads. RIM could have shipped a tablet with email. Boeing could have designed a new plane, or at least told pilots about the software. MoviePass could have charged $25 and lost less money. But in each case, pressure from investors, from competitors, from quarterly earnings pushed smart people to make catastrophically dumb decisions. They chose shortcuts over solutions, narrative over numbers, and momentum over reality. If Boeing had spent the money to design a clean sheet aircraft, instead of patching software onto a 50-year-old airframe, 346 people would still be alive. Sometimes the expensive, slow path is the only path that doesn't end in disaster. But that doesn't stop the next CEO from trying the shortcut anyway.